Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
The Daily Compliance News for August 16, 2021, the FT Books of the Year Award edition. And we're going to hold that story till the end of this podcast. We begin with a story from the New York Times Deal book on the limits of vacation. During the pandemic, some companies expanded their vacation policies to reduce burnout, but experts say there's really much better ways to help do that. Although vacations help, they're not a long-term solution because many people can't or won't turn off their emails, Slack, instant messaging during their vacations. What employees seem to like is having things like a Friday off for the entire company or a weekend free of emails from the boss. So it's a great article, and it should give you a lot of ideas about things you can implement in your function. Next up, if you lived at all during the 60s, 70s, 80s, or even 90s in the United States, you know the Nielsen ratings were sacrosanct. But now Nielsen has asked the media rating watchdog, the Media Rating Council, to pause its accreditation for its national TV rating service. They said they need to do that so they can figure out how to update their ratings. This is a pretty clear statement from Nielsen Ratings. They really don't know how to rate television shows in the age of streaming. And I would ask you to consider what would be the impact if you simply asked for no assessments of your compliance program. I think it would definitely be a big not good. Next up, from Wirecard, or rather from the Financial Times, a top German asset manager has sued Wirecard over losses from shareholders. This is unusual for shareholders to bring this in a bankruptcy proceeding in Germany. Typically, shareholders are the ones left holding the bag, and the creditors are head in line. So I don't know if it's a desperation move or that lawyers for the shareholders think they can move the shareholders up in the priority for repayment, but pretty interesting news on Wirecard. And finally, we're going to devote a little bit longer than normal to the FT 2021 Business Book of the Year Award nominees, which were announced last night or over the weekend. And the awards will be given out on September 23rd by the FT in a virtual conference. But if you have access to the FT, I would suggest you check out this list. It's a pretty impressive list of books. It includes Unrivaled, The Death of a Garment, The World for Sale, Power, Money, and Traders Who Barter the Earth's Resources, The Culture of WeWork, Adam Neumann, and The Great Startup Delusion, Key Man, The True Story of How the Global Elite Was Duped by the Capitalist Fairy Tale, The Aristocracy of Talent, How Mediocracy Made the Modern World, The Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty, and many other great books. If you haven't read any of these business books, I would suggest that you try to do so over the rest of the year. I've read some of them, and they're really great reads with great insights into business successes and business failures. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.